Hi there, I'm Professor Blackmore, and I want to welcome you to ProfessorBlackmore.com, where our goal is to empower results through real productivity. And if you haven't been here before, I want to ask that you please subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post new videos. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And today, I want to talk to you about the breaking bombshell. I mean, literally, bombshell, no pun intended, developments surrounding the Alec Baldwin shooting on the set of the movie Rust. And this is the question that I really want to answer here. And that is, was the Alec Baldwin shooting on the Rust movie set really an accident? And if not, what are the criminal implications? Now, I want to say right at the start that I absolutely think the end result of this shooting was an accident on the part of Alec Baldwin. Clearly, he would not have fired the weapon had he known it included a live projectile. But is it possible that maybe some things were intentionally set in motion to bring about the end result, accidental circumstances? Now, I'm going to go step by step with what we do know, which is not much, and what we don't know. And so first, what we do know. Number one, it seems there was so much chaos surrounding the entire movie set. I mean, really, the entire industry that led to an unsafe working environment on the set. And in connection with this one thing that we do know, I find a few things very interesting. And the first thing is that a few weeks ago, the Cinematographers Guild, represented by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, threatened to strike, but the members entered into an agreement that halted that strike. I personally saw reports from actual members of this particular union indicating that they were not consulted about the details of the agreement and they were not happy. It is reported that the union members of the crew in question where the Alec Baldwin shooting took place walked off the set prior to that shoot. And so when you think about this first thing that is critical on this set, which is the great amount of chaos that surrounded the entire movie set, these are just a few things that add into that particular complexity. Then we have a gun being fired from a single projectile. One person died and one other person was injured from the same projectile. So these are the things that we do know. We also know that it is reported that the union sent an email, this same union sent an email to its members stating that there was no union prop master on set at the time of the shooting, and that there were no local 44 members on the call sheet on the evening of the shooting at all. So what we have here is there were no union members, reportedly, allegedly, on the set at all at the time of this particular shooting. They had all allegedly left prior to the shooting. Then we also know that the union rep went even further in that particular email to state that a live single round was accidentally fired on set by the principal actor, Alec Baldwin, hitting both the director of photography, Halyna Hutchins, who was a member of Local 600, and director Joel Souza. When I say Local 600 now, I'm not talking about the particular Local 44 members that had walked off the set, but now the director of photography was a member of Local 600, which was the cinematographers union, which was the same union that threatened to strike just a few weeks ago. So you got a whole hotbed of disgruntled, it seemed, employees, your Local 600 cinematographers, and then you have your Local 44 members who make up members of the entire set. Now, these are just some things that we do know. Now, some of the underlying aspects, the information set forth in the email, I'm not saying that that is a part of what we know, but we know that the email itself was sent. Let me just clarify that. Now, let me say first that I found in listening to the various versions of different individuals using the word misfire is just thrown around in a very loose kind of way. I heard people refer to Alec Baldwin's firing of the weapon as a misfire. But let me clarify for you that when you mistakenly fire a weapon and you later decide that you should not have fired the weapon or you didn't mean to fire the weapon, that's not a misfire. A misfire is a mechanical misfunction that happens inside of the gun, causing some type of mishap in the actual firing of that bullet. This is not what happened here. This is not a misfire. We have someone who accidentally fired a weapon, but that's not a misfire. And apparently, one or more weapons on the set had also rumored to have misfired. And the union members had rumored to have walked off of the set due to a lack of safety. But whether any of this is true or not would be categorized amongst the things that we don't know. And now we want to look at just some of the things that we don't know. So number one, we don't know if the allegations are untrue that led to the reasons they thought the set was unsafe. We don't know whether these allegations are true or untrue. We just don't know. These are allegations being made by these seemingly disgruntled employees. And number two, we don't definitively know if the cartridge that was fired at the time that Alec Baldwin fired the weapon was a live cartridge or a blank or dummy cartridge. Now, in addition to all of the chaos going on during the 911 call, you could hear the script supervisor say some things that raised my eyebrow. She intimated that someone by the name of Dave yelled at her. She said that he kept asking her about her vision. And then she also said, or she asked someone if they heard him yelling at her. And she said this Dave person was supposed to check the guns. And further, she stated during this 911 call, while she was on hold talking to someone in the background, she said that he's allegedly, I'm thinking that she's talking about Dave. She said that he was supposed to check the guns and that he was responsible for the guns. And so again, when she's referencing this guy, Dave, that's going to be very interesting to unlock some of the details behind that.
Santa Fe Fire and EMS, what's the location of the emergency?
Bonanza Creek Ranch has had two people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately.
Okay.
Bonanza Creek Ranch, come on.
Stay on the phone with me. We're going to get some help, okay?
Okay.
What is your name?
Mamie Mitchell.
Miss Mitchell, what's the phone number you're calling from?
50.
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay.
We have two injuries from a movie gun shot.
Okay, we're getting them out there already. Just stay on the phone with me.
Thank you. Okay. This dude that yelled at me at lunch because asking about revisions. You seen him lean over my table and yell at me? He's supposed to check the guns. He's responsible for what happened in the company.
Now, Mimi?
No. I'm a script supervisor.
How many people were injured?
Two that I know of. I was sitting, we were rehearsing, and it went off, and I ran out. We all ran out. They were butt doubled over the AD and the camera woman and the director. They're clearing the road for you to come back. We're back in the town. We're back in the western town.
And so in the face of all of this chaos, there are a whole lot of questions that could come up. Like, is it possible that someone within this group could have left a cartridge in a set gun and put it in a place where the supposedly empty guns were placed? And so this definitely has not been ruled out. Now, all of the reports, which have not been conclusively substantiated, indicate that the two people were hit by a live round. This is something that you're hearing over and over and over again from different people. Now, here is a side-by-side comparison of what a live round and a dummy round, a blank round looks like, or what we call a live cartridge or a blank cartridge. And as you can see here, when you look at the side-by-side comparison, this is going to be our live and this is going to be our blank here. You can see that both of these are almost substantially the same, except the blank does not have the bullet projectile on the end, which is what actually goes into the person that just makes it lethal or a fatal weapon or something that could cause death. But there have been some instances when in close range, the velocity of this gunpowder and primer that caused the flash and the smoke look of a weapon or a gun firing can also cause some fatal or lethal implications or death. And so when we hear the different factual renditions of what people are saying occurred here, we keep hearing the people say that it was a live cartridge, which is this one on this side, which has a bullet projectile. And so when you think about the fact that we do have a person who ended up dying, that kind of lines up. But the fact of the matter is, at this time, we still don't know whether we were dealing with a live or a blank. And so when you listen to all that had been going on, the question is, were they using any live rounds on the set for any reason? In general, it appears that there would not have been a reason to have any live rounds on a set like this. And so how did a live round get in this gun? And so I'm just thinking in my mind, if there were reports that the gun had previously had trouble with misfiring, and kept using that word misfiring, we still don't know what they mean. Do they mean that people were firing the gun accidentally, or they were firing the gun and bullets were coming out by mistake that they did not mean to have come out, that they meant that it should be blanks instead? Are they saying that's a misfiring? Or are they saying there's some mechanical issue inside of the gun that's causing the gun to misfire, which is the true definition of misfire? It's hard to tell what they're saying when they're saying that there was previous misfiring of guns on the set. But if there were reports that the gun had previously had trouble with misfiring, wouldn't someone have checked that weapon and made perfectly sure that it had, at the very least, been emptied and taken off the set? And if so, or even if not, the only way a cartridge with a live round could get in the gun is if someone intentionally placed it in there. That's the only conclusion I can be left with. A live round would not get in the gun by itself. Or maybe could this have been a new gun that had been brought on the set because of trouble with the other gun? Is there any way that something like that could happen without someone specifically making sure the gun was clear when people were already complaining, if true, about the set not being safe? And who is this Dave that the 911 caller said were responsible for the guns? So if we remember, the union rep stated in a written email now to its members that there was no prop master, no union prop master on the set at the time of the shooting. So who gave the gun to the person who gave it to Alec Baldwin? Or did the person just pick the gun up from the place where the props were kept after everybody had walked off the set? Did someone come trying to fill in that role and pick up a gun that was placed in a place where the props were kept, the guns that were thought to have been clear or safe? These are all questions that have to be looming very heavy in the minds of the investigators. Now, here is one expert's opinion of how guns should be handled on a movie set.
I know as an armorer, I focus completely on the weapons. When I first arrive on the set, the weapons are locked in my vehicle. I walk up to the first AD. and say, I need to park my vehicle so I can keep an eye on it the entire time I'm working, or even just wherever I'm at. I need to be able to look and see my vehicle to make sure it's not being tampered with. Then what I do is when the first AD tells me what he wants for the day, he tells me the type of guns. Then at that point, I take the guns out of the vehicle, get a folding table and a chair, and I go set up on the set somewhere out of camera range. And then I proceed to lay the weapons out on the table. I lay the blanks out, and I inspect every round of ammunition that goes into the weapons before I got to the set. And as I am handling them on the set, I'm also visually inspecting them again, just to double check and make sure there's no live ammo.
What does it tell you that some of the crew had already walked out over concerns about safety on this set?
Well, that says to me that they didn't have a professional weapons handler, a professional armorer on set. So this is something that I can't stress enough, that the person on the Rust set, I'm guessing, was probably not trained in the Hollywood School of Armor.
Do you think, given how good special effects are these days, that we still need these prop weapons, these guns, to be fired on set in order to achieve the cinematic effect?
Well, they have these non-guns that are basically, you take almost like a little flashlight bulb, and you insert them into the guns, and they're fired electronically, so you get a little bit of a flash and a little puff of smoke. They in no way resemble the real thing. They don't look like a real gun. They don't sound or smoke like a real gun. So you can go that way, but most, if not all, directors I've ever worked with don't like using them because they don't look real.
So as you can see here, the expert raises 2 points of interest. Number one, he stresses the importance of keeping a clear focus on nothing else but the weapons while he's on set, which includes being able to keep an eye on all weapons at all times to make sure that they are not tampered with. And number two, he notes that it seems clear that there was not a professional on the set at the time of the shooting who would understand and appreciate the possibility that a weapon could be tampered with if the person handling that weapon has not had eyes on that particular weapon 100% of the time to definitively establish that the only rounds that are in that weapon are those placed in it by the person handling it or the person handing it to someone else, i.e. Alec Baldwin. So now I'm just going to go over the exclusionary possibilities that I can think of with all of this in mind. So what could have happened? And what are the criminal implications of each of these conclusionary possibilities? Now, the large question has to be, if a live round caused the death of one person and injury to another, how would a live round make it on the set, and even further, actually in a weapon? So this is my first conclusionary possibility. It is highly possible that someone intentionally placed a live cartridge into the weapon, possibly thinking what was alleged to have been rumored to happen earlier maybe would happen again, i.e. that the weapon would be mistakenly fired by someone, never thinking that the weapon would actually be aimed at someone or that someone would actually end up being killed or injured. Everybody is saying that this was 100% an accident and that there's no criminal exposure. And as I said at the very beginning, let me just make sure that I qualify this. I absolutely think that the end result of this shooting was an accident on the part of Alec Baldwin. And again, clearly, he would not have fired the weapon had he known it included a live projectile. But it is possible that maybe some things were intentionally set in motion to bring about this end result, accidental circumstance. And this is what I mean when I say that. And so if this happened and someone intentionally placed a live cartridge in the weapon, irrespective of whether they thought someone would actually end up dead, this would be a clearly reckless event there would be clear criminal liability, i.e. some type of manslaughter, for example, for anyone who would have placed the live cartridge in the weapon. Now, regarding the person who would have handed the weapon to Alec Baldwin and Alec Baldwin himself, these may suffer civil negligence exposure, but that would be borne by any insurance that the movie company had. And Alec Baldwin is a deep pocket in his own right. It could end up resulting in some civil liability to him personally. It's also possible, as a result of all of the trouble that they may have had or allegedly had with this other gun, that this weapon showed up somehow as a replacement and it already had a live round inadvertently left in it and no one actually cleared the weapon. Or it could be that this is one of the same weapons that had misfired and somehow a live round inadvertently ended up in this weapon. As a result, maybe someone who was not trained assumed it was clear without having an expert to confirm that it was clear before handing it to Alec Baldwin. If this happened, there would most likely not be any criminal liability. But regarding the person who would have handed the weapon to Alec Baldwin and Alec Baldwin himself, they both may very likely suffer civil negligence exposure. But again, this would be borne by any insurance that the movie company had. In any circumstance, there's going to be a civil action here. Now, it might not reach the stage where an actual lawsuit would be filed, but the insurer for the movie may tender its full policy limits and maybe even some of its excess policy limits and settle the matter with the family of the decedent and the injured employee. So, this is the full analysis of the major possible scenarios that I see. I am not definitively of the opinion, like everybody else is, that there will not be any criminal liability because we cannot rule out sabotage by anyone, an unknown party, who may have carried out the reckless act of inserting a live cartridge into this weapon intentionally. But let me know what you think, even if you totally disagree with me. But be nice, okay? And I hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post new videos. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram.